Here's what's coming today on the Woodworking Network podcast.
One guy actually wrote an obituary for one of his sanders. He had had so long. He brought home that sander the same day he brought home his son from the hospital. And then he came back a couple weeks later and edited it because he had sent it in and realized he just needed new brushes. And so, he was revived from the dead.
Welcome to this episode of the Woodworking Network podcast. Join us as we explore the business of woodworking, big and small, and what it takes to succeed. I'm Will Sampson. Today's episode is sponsored by FDMC Magazine. Today my guest is Clint Chapman, CEO of Festool North America, which is celebrating its 25th year serving the U.S. and Canada. Also, Festool, the parent company in Germany, is marking its 100th anniversary this year. But first, I want to talk about things that last. Lots of people say that we live in a disposable society with everything designed to be thrown away and replaced, and probably sooner rather than later. But I just can't reconcile myself to that kind of thinking. All day long, I deal with companies that are making products they hope will actually last. They don't want those products to be viewed as disposable. In furniture, there's a term for pieces that are heirloom quality. In other words, they're so well made and durable that they're intended to be handed down from one generation to the next. Cabinets and closets are not often described the same way, but they still are built to last. In Europe, people call kitchen cabinets kitchen furniture, and they do take it with them when they move to another house. Who said those frameless Euro boxes won't hold up? But what about technology and electric tools and appliances? We've got so inured to updates in technology that we replace our expensive phones and computers every couple of years. Software we used to own, now we rent. Nobody thinks twice about throwing an old toaster in the trash and picking up a new one for less than most wage earners make in a couple hours. Of course, not everything is on the quick replace cycle. Cars and trucks tend to last longer than they used to and require less maintenance along the way. Once upon a time, it was an achievement to get a car that would last to 100,000 miles. Now lots of well-made cars and trucks can do 2 or 3 times that with just a little care and feeding. In the shop, the tools we use to make wood products have also gone through changes. Even traditional stationary machines like table saws and joiners are built to last longer. And lots of shops continue to get their start by picking up older, still serviceable machinery at affordable prices while still expecting those machines to pull their own weight for years to come. When people ask for recommendations on tools and machinery, I often hear the advice, buy once, cry once. The suggestion is to spend a bit more for quality and get something that lasts. Still, that reasoning seems to go out the window when it comes to portable power tools like drill drivers and small routers. These are treated as consumables. Hardly anyone even tries to repair them. Just buy another. Companies like Festool have found there is a market for portable power tools intended to last, but the price tag is a tough sell for some. I've bought cheap tools and I've bought expensive tools. Sometimes it takes buying a cheap tool and replacing it several times to see the value in something better made that also carries a higher price tag. But when you're in the business of making things to last, you probably ought to be using tools meant to last as well. I've always considered buying tools as more of an investment rather than an expense. After all, I'm in it for the long haul. Before we get to our interview with Clint Chapman, let's pause for a word from our sponsor. FDMC Magazine is your vital source of information to improve your woodworking business, whether it's keeping you apprised of the latest advances in manufacturing, helping you solve your wood technology problems with Gene Wengert, or inspiring you with case histories about successful businesses and best practices. FDMC Magazine is there to be the sharpest business tool in your shop. Learn more and subscribe for free at woodworkingnetwork.com/FDMC. Now let's talk with Clint Chapman. Today, my guest is Clint Chapman, CEO of Festool North America, which is celebrating its 25th year serving the U.S. and Canada. Should also be noted that Festool, the parent company, is marking its 100th anniversary this year. Welcome to the Woodworking Network podcast, Clint.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, this is great. I think most of our audience knows Festool for its premium power tool products, but can you give us a little background on the history of Festool? What was the first Festool product?
The first Festool product, actually, strangely, I believe, was the first handheld single-person chainsaw back in, it would have been the early 20s.
Yeah, I think it was 27. The
Yeah,
company was founded in 25, but I think the chainsaw came out in 27.
yeah. And lots of new innovations that have come since then. But yeah, they've been breaking new ground for 100 years now.
Do they have a chainsaw in their tool listing these days, or is that long gone?
Not really. There is in Europe, there is a what's called a saber saw, which is a very small version of a chainsaw. It's mostly used for specific types of insulation that are more popular in Europe than they are here.
Interesting. And I gather the name Festool, I guess it was originally Festo, and it just combination of the names of the founders or something like that.
That's correct. Yep. And Festo, and then there was a split off several years ago where now there is still a Festo, and then Festool being the consumer brand.
Interesting. So now, how did Festool make it to America? I have a vague recollection of some wild and crazy guy in Santa Barbara, California, who sort of single-handedly started promoting the products here. Maybe you can fill me in.
Yeah, that's true. We had a distributor that was interested in selling Festool tools, and apparently back at that time there was not a whole lot of interest in doing that. There was a lot of growth going on in Europe at the time, a lot of initiatives, and so there was a little bit of hesitancy to jump into this North American thing. And in 2000, we finally incorporated in a little house in Santa Barbara with 8 whole employees, and it really started from there. The house still stands, and I think the outdoor volleyball court where they used to play volleyball on lunch breaks is still there as well.
That's great. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but I remember talking to him when he was starting, and he had I think the original track saw and maybe the Rotex sander or something like that as his first offerings, and it was so different than the kinds of power tools that were generally being sold in North America at the time. It's kind of interesting.
I think that was part of the allure, is there were these really neat innovations that were coming out of there that just had not reached the United States yet, and so there was definitely a small but growing interest in the Festool brand that I'm just blown away by, because we've grown so much just because of those people that were really passionate from the very beginning, and jumped into the brand early, and then were just these phenomenal, you know, really advocates for the brand. I mean, it's all because of people that have been using Festool that we are what we are today.
What do you think it is that really sets Festool apart from other portable power tool brands?
I I think for different people, it's slightly different things depending on what your profession, your trade, what your hobby is, and people come in from different places. Some people will come in from a track saw and they just want the best precision, and so we know a lot of people get started with the TS55. You can have people that are doing drywall and painting, and they're coming in because of a Planex or even a Rotex. And so it really depends on the customer. But ultimately, I think what ends up happening is when they buy it, they realize, wow, there's something really different about this. There's a whole system of everything that works together really well. It's really well thought out. And I think more than anything, what we really try to do is just provide the absolute best customer service. We know no matter how good a product is, eventually you're going to encounter an issue or you're going to need a repair or something. And that's when we really try to be the absolute best partners. And I think that's one of the things that ultimately really sets us apart is the feeling that you can count on Festool is, we're going to stand behind our products, we're going to stand behind our customers, and we're going to do the right things.
Well, it always seemed to me too that Festools generally cost a little bit more than some of their competitors. And it seems that there's a philosophy that's crucially different, that some of the other portable power tools are really considered as disposable consumables.
Yeah.
And I never got the impression that the Festools don't last forever, but I never got the impression that they were built like that to just be disposable items.
Absolutely not. I mean, honestly, that is one of our biggest things as a company is we're very conscious of trying to be, really more environmentally friendly. We want to make sure that our tools are not disposable. We have a 3-year warranty, and the only way we can have that is by making sure that the tools do not break very often. And it's true that we've got some people that a couple of years ago we sent out a notification on Facebook and just asking people to show us pictures of their Festool tools that they've had the longest. And we've seen pictures of people that have had the same CT on job sites every day for 15 years. There was
The
one
CT
guy.
is the vacuum, right?
Exactly. Yep, the
Yeah.
vacuum. One guy actually wrote an obituary for one of his sanders that he had so long. And then, but the best part of it, it was just, this very heartfelt obituary. He brought home that sander the same day he brought home his son from the hospital. And so it meant a lot to him. And then he came back a couple weeks later and edited it because he had sent it in and realized he just needed new brushes. And so, it was revived from the dead. Those are things we love hearing that. We love hearing when, I don't love the thought of people just having a tool and throwing it away. And one of the challenges, we just engineer it so that it is really sturdy and durable because we want people to hold on to them for as long as they possibly can.
Well, I've got, an old ancient, I guess it's an ATF track saw.
Yeah.
And I've got an ancient Rotex sander that I have tried to kill. I've dropped it way too many times. And I even used it as a floor sander in a house one time. And, but it won't die.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody at Festool about upgrading or something like that. And I just, the new ones are lighter and probably better, but
If it won't die, then it's still good. I mean, and that's what we hope for. Because again, these these are tools that a lot of people this is their livelihood, and if a tool goes down, then they can't do a job. And so it's just, we take it very seriously that it's, we love what we do and we love making these tools, but we want to make sure that people can count on them. And so, yeah, it's a huge goal for us. When we see old tools coming back in, and are still being used, that's a great sign for us.
one of the things I love about the newer tools, some of my old Fest tools are of course hardwired, but the newer ones, have the cords that can be just bayoneted in and out, and
Yeah.
for if you've got corded tools, of course everybody's trying to get rid of corded tools these days, but if you've got a corded tool, probably the most common thing to go wrong with it is the cord to fail,
Yeah.
and if you can just plug a new cord in instantaneously, that
Yep.
keeps you working.
Yep. And the thing is, there's always going to be a need for both corded and cordless tools. There's some people that work in the shop most of the time, and they don't need as many cordless tools. There's people on the job site, and so We want to make sure we're making the best possible product wherever or however you're using it. And to your point, you don't want something simple to fail you and be the reason you can't be working on the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I'm some years ago, I got the opportunity to visit the factory in Germany, and it was quite impressive, especially their research and development and extensive testing that they were
Yeah.
doing. I'm sure that the processes has expanded beyond that. Can you go over what the basic process is at Festool for developing a new tool? How does that work?
Oh man. Ideas come from a lot of different places, but ultimately, we have a team in Germany we call business centers, and they're separated into different groups. We have a sawing business center, we have a cordless business center, and so they work on specific product lines. And they've got a group of engineers that are constantly going out and working with professionals and trying to understand what are the needs that aren't being met currently in the market. And then they come up with really great ideas. And then we have to filter through because there are so many good ideas. We can only do so many things at once. And so we have to really go through and prioritize and figure out, product timelines and how quickly we can get out to the market, but also do it in the right way where, we're spending the time to do the right engineering and testing to your point. And so there's a lot of people that go into that, and even us on the North American side, we need to provide guidance as to there's some different needs in the U.S. and Canada than there are over in Europe. We have some different trades, different materials that we're using and stuff, and so we provide feedback during that process to make sure, hey, whatever they're making is going to be relevant to customers here, and then just yeah, a very long, engaged development process where it's just really focused on how do they get the absolute best product that they can. And again, making sure that we're designing it to last. So a lot goes into it.
Well, and there's also, I know that there's challenges in getting a product from Europe to North America. You've got to go through like the UL testing and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
Years ago, I remember Festool had in Europe a kind of scary looking for us in America, scary looking saw. It was a table, portable table mounted thing that you could, mount the saw upside down and it's sticking
Mm.
out of the table. And
Yeah.
and that never made it to the
Yeah.
States.
No. Yeah, no, there are definitely some, to your point, some different safety regulations depending on Europe versus the U.S. And honestly, there's a slew of different regulations, and there's things that we do here that are more aggressive than what they're doing in Europe, or in Europe more aggressive than what they're doing here. And so that is a constant challenge to keep up with that in terms of what's happening in terms of differences in terms of laws, regulations, and what products will work here versus what won't. Even one of the simplest things that often provides a bit of a challenge for us is our power source. We're on a 110 versus a 220, and that makes a big difference when you're developing everything out of Germany that doesn't have access to our power system here, because it's not a clean sine curve that we have here. We got a lot of different variations in terms of how clean or how dirty electricity is. And so that provides its own challenge to making sure that a tool designed in one place can be used in a variety of different circumstances with different power sources.
I wonder if the move to more cordless tools makes that any easier, or
It
does that?
definitely does.
Oh,
It
great.
absolutely does, because that's the one place where our tools are exactly the same in terms of between Europe and North America is in cordless, because it's a battery is a battery, but obviously just different plugs require different change to software and things like that, and so yeah, just that change in power makes a big difference between some of the tools that we have.
Now, your North American headquarters is in Indiana these days, which I've also visited there, and it's quite a bit more than just a warehouse. Can you tell us what goes on there?
So strangely, we're in Lebanon, Indiana. And it has grown quite a bit since when I was a little kid living here in Indiana. And it is both we have a really massive three warehouses actually that we've built over the years. It's also the center of where we have North American marketing. We have sales here as well as sales division in Canada. We've got a repair facility for US here, finance. So yeah, we've got a whole organization in this little office here in Lebanon, Indiana, which yeah you wouldn't notice until you drive by and notice there's a striking different architecture to the building here than what you see around us.
Yeah, I was impressed with the repair section that again showed the commitment. And the other thing that I thought was really cool, I think one of the things that sets Festool apart is, at least initially, now there's a lot of people copying, but is the idea of componentizing everything and having a good storage system, the sustainer system.
Yeah.
And I know there's like one wall in the place there in Indiana that's nothing but sustainers on the
Oh yeah,
wall.
that's Sedge's sustainer wall. Yeah, he spent a good amount of time building that out. But yeah, it's a pretty neat thing to see.
Sedge is one of Festool's most well-known demonstrators.
Yes, he is. And
Great
actually
guy.
from Maine, just like you, I believe.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I've had a number of conversations with him, and kind of like your story with the guy with the sander that just needed brushes. I was telling him my tale of woe, and when I thought I had killed my Rotex, and he said, "Oh, it probably just needs brushes." And of course, my Rotex came with extra brushes in the package, so I just
Oh yeah.
dug around in the sustainer, and in about 5 minutes I was back and running.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But at any rate, it's neat to have that facility because I think so many times people are saying, "Oh, it just can't be repaired," and then B, the repair on a say a European or overseas product is going to take weeks or
Mhm.
months or whatever.
Yeah, that's one thing we kind of we absolutely pride ourselves on is between our repair and our customer service and um, our repair department. We try to get every tool out if possible. Once it's hit our facility, we try to get it back out to a customer within 48 hours. A lot of them go back within 24 hours, and so what we end up seeing is that actually for a tool repair, the bulk of the time it takes is really in shipping, especially if you're on the West Coast, given that we're in Indiana. But yeah, again, it goes back to we know people are relying on these tools, and so we try to get them back out to customers as quick as possible.
That's great. Now, Festool has been a leader in power tool trends with things like the dust collection and track saws and tool storage and joinery. What's the most popular Festool product?
I would say it's probably our DF 500, the Domino joiner. It's definitely one of our most popular products, and honestly, it's one where I think it changes people's lives more than I think most other tools. In terms of when you compare it to just a standard biscuit joiner, what you can do with a Domino is significantly better, a lot more precise. And yeah, and honestly, some of the neatest things I've seen, some of the other things that people make with dominoes, and I've seen clocks and all kinds of stuff. And so the possibilities are almost endless with that tool. So I definitely say that's one of our biggest flagship products we have.
For folks that don't know, the Domino is a loose tenon joinery system. It works a lot like a common biscuit joiner, but it's using heavy duty loose tenons made out of beech, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's a real heavy duty, and there's all sorts of sizes and variabilities, and yet you can use them just as fast as you would use a biscuit joiner, and very precise. It's a cool product. Speaking of cool products, I recently tried out the new exoskeleton. That's a kind of a departure for Festool. It's really cool. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's funny. It's definitely a departure in terms of it's not your typical, power tool, but I would definitely say it goes along with the focus that we've had so long in terms of just focusing on safety, focusing on ergonomics, and there's obviously a need for in a lot of trades that are doing a lot of overhead work from some assistants, and we know that a lot of people that do that day in, day out end up having major shoulder, back problems and stuff. If you're hanging drywall on the ceiling day to day, that'll wear on your body over time. And so it was just kind of recognizing that need to again support our tradespeople. And so we have a sister company called XOIQ, and they designed this really amazing exoskeleton. It looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. It's a backpack that you wear, and it runs on an 18-volt battery. And there is it's a pneumatic system that actually provides support for your arms, and you can actually dial in the support. I think it's up to about 12 pounds per
Yeah,
arm.
heck yeah, 11 or 12 pounds. And
Yeah,
boy,
which doesn't seem like much.
well, it was, I tried it out lifting gallon paint cans.
Yeah, and how'd it go?
It was great.
Yeah, it's definitely you don't want to be seen in the gym with it. That'd be cheating, but it is it's really surprising. What just honestly, if you just have a simple drill and you're working above your head for a few hours, you feel that, and so it doesn't take much to put a strain on you. And so yeah, just that 12 pounds per arm, a huge assistance. And the really neat thing is the front you can to be 100% and the other 0% assistance. So if you want to have range of motion, more range of motion on one arm than the other one's more for support. So a really, really neat product. And yeah, it's, kind of goes back to the first portable chainsaw. It's trying to do really new, innovative things that are addressing needs we see in the market.
What's the newest Festool product? What's the
The
most
we
recent one?
We've actually got a couple coming out here the end of March, and so we have a new the Cis Air, and again it goes back to our focus on with dust extraction and having a not only a healthy workplace, but also for people that are doing remodeling work in people's homes, trying to reduce the amount of dust, and so it's the Cis Air is a HEPA air cleaner. Actually, we've got a HEPA and a non-HEPA depending on what you need and how much volume of air you need to move through. But that'll be launching later this month. We've also got some new updated dust extractors. And I think one of the things that, going back to what we said before, people are really excited about is since it's the 100 year, we have a special 100-year edition of the DF 500 domino joiner in a special 100-year case.
That's cool. Can you
Yeah.
give us a hint as to what the company's working on for the future? What's the leading trend in portable power tools from Festool's perspective?
Well, I'd say it's no longer enough just to power and durability aren't enough anymore. It's we now need to make sure that we're developing tools that get the best results faster and safer. And so I'd say the two bigger trends are probably safety and efficiency. And obviously, SawStop is one of our sister companies, and they're all about protecting hands and fingers. And so that's an obvious one. We've done a lot of things in terms of things like kickback stops on track saws and drills. But some of the things I think there's still a real lack of education on kind of the long-term respiratory impact of working without adequate dust extraction. And so that continues obviously with the Cis Air that we're doing. We want to make sure people are healthy. And so I think the safety is going to continue to be important for us. We're going to find ways to make sure that we're helping to protect our customers. And then the idea of efficiency, there's always going to be people that are, hand planers, hand tools, chisels, things like that. And that will always be the case. But for a lot of professional customers, the demands of their business mean, they have to use their time and materially as possible. And so I think, one of the things that we're going to continue to see is how can we use technology to make people more efficient. And so, that could be just the precision of our saws to make sure that you cut it once and it's perfect. Or, things like, with the Rotex, where it was decreasing the time needed for surf prep. And so I think you're going to continue to see a lot of those. How do we make things more efficient and safer for our customers?
That sounds great. Well, I'm always excited to hear about new products from Festool because they always seem to be just a little bit different and addressing a lot of it. Like Festool was one of the first companies to really address the onboard dust collection from portable power tools. And it was kind of like a head slapping aha moment. I said, why didn't somebody else do this?
Well, I think there's just a lot of people that just don't. Even one of our local engineers was just surprised. He had a measurement tool for the amount of dust in his shop, and just kind of put one in there one day and realized by hardly doing anything, there's a lot of dust that just floats around in the workshop. And so things like that, where you just don't really think about the long-term impacts of it because you don't really notice it, are things that we're also just concerned about because it's, we want to be proactive in helping our own customers. But
yeah, well, it's dust is not just a personal safety, but it's a fire hazard and explosive hazard and all that too. So there's good reasons to be addressing that, and it's always best to collect it right at the source rather than sweeping it up afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, this is great, Clint, and congratulations on the double anniversary. And I always look forward to hearing what's new and exciting from Festool. And what's your website if folks want to learn more?
You can go to festoolusa.com or festoolca if you want the Canadian site. There's all kinds of information about the company history, where we've been, what we're doing, as well as obviously our current and some of the upcoming products you're going to see later this month.
And if you're a fan, I guess you even are selling some Festool anniversary swag.
Yes. You can find, we've got a Festool fan shop and some really cool, actually, some of the old Festo logoed T-shirts as well, just some other great stuff. Unfortunately, you can't see it right now, but that's what I've got a Festool dry wick shirt that I wear almost every day. So this is my everyday attire.
That's great, Clint. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and it's great to hear what's going on with Festool. And as there are new tools and new developments, we may have you back to talk about some other things.
Well, I'd love to. I appreciate the time and let me come on and just chat with you.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it for today. If you're looking for more of our podcasts, you can find all of them at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcasts and in popular podcast channels. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks again to today's sponsor, FDMC Magazine. If you have a comment or topic you'd like us to explore, contact me at will.sampson@woodworkingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening.